What is up, guys? Fives here, and today we're going to be talking about some of the best Jump to Lightspeed cards for sealed format. If you're going to be playing JTL sealed with the new set 4, these are the cards you're going to want to use. First up, we got Director Krennic. Krennic is a blue-black 2-cost card. He comes out with 2/2 and shielded, and he has an ability. The first unit you play each round that has a when defeated ability costs 1 less. This is going to synergize really well with quite a few cards on the set, specifically Fleet Interdictor, Onyx Squadron, Chimera, and more. He's just an all-around really good card. Having a 2-cost 2/2 with a shield is already pretty solid. And then on top of that, if you can use his ability to play Fleet Interdictor for 6 and play Onyx for 1, Chimera for 5, that is just really, really strong. Iden Versio is a 4-cost 4/3 shielded ground unit or a 3-cost 3/3 pilot, and when you pilot her onto a vehicle, you give that vehicle a shield token. Really good. I would play her as a pilot. I wouldn't be playing her as a ground unit, but she's very strong. Next up is the Corvus. This is a 5-cost blue-black 4/5 with Restore 2. When played, you may attach a friendly pilot unit or upgrade to this unit. Next up is the Chimera. This is a 6-cost blue-black 5/6 capital ship. When played, you may use a when defeated ability on another friendly unit. When defeated, create 2 TIE Fighter tokens. What would be really cool is if you had Director Krennic, you could play the Chimera for 5 instead of 6. But even at 6, I think it's still a pretty good card to have. Next up is one of my favorite cards in the set. This is Fleet Interdictor. It's a 7-cost blue-black capital ship with 6/6. It has Sentinel, and when defeated, you may defeat a space unit that costs 3 or less. This is a really, really strong card, and something that your opponent is going to hate to see come out. On top of that, you can play this card for 6 if you have Krennic. Next up, we got Harrison Dula. Harris is a 2-cost blue-white unit with 2/3 and Restore 1, or a 2-cost 2/3 Restore 1 pilot. I would put her as a pilot. Being able to add 2/3 and Restore 1 to a ship for only 2 resources is a really good deal. Obviously, you could play her on the ground as a turn 1 drop, but she's pretty cool as a pilot too. Paige Tico, 2-cost blue-white, 3/2 on the ground, but you're definitely going to want to play Paige as a pilot because Paige is a 2-cost pilot that gives 2/2 and the attached on-attack ability of give an experience token to this unit, then deal 1 damage to it. This is going to be an insane unit. If your opponent just kind of ignores it and lets you keep that unit, then you can just keep dealing a damage and getting an extra attack and dealing a damage and getting an extra attack. And this is just a really good card. It goes very well with Resistance X-Wing. Next up, we got Admiral Yularen. He's a very interesting card. He's a 3-cost blue-white, 1/5 Republic official. When played, choose Grit, Restore 1, Sentinel, or Shielded. While this unit is in play, each friendly vehicle unit gains the chosen keyword. So basically, he's a 3-cost ground unit. He's not going to do much of anything in the way of attacking, but while he's alive, every vehicle unit you control is going to either have Grit, Restore, Sentinel, or Shielded based on what you chose. And the potential for this is really strong. It's incredibly situational, but the potential for this is really, really strong. Imagine having a bunch of token units that all had Restore 1 or all had Sentinel, or imagine being able to play vehicle units and they just come out shielded. That is really, really cool. And 5 health is not bad. That means your opponent has to really commit a lot of resources. They either have to out the airlock this guy or do 5 damage to him. That's not nothing. So he's going to be a situationally very strong card. Next up, we got Cassian Andor. Cassian's a blue-white 3-cost 3/4 on the ground, but you should play him as a pilot. He costs 2, and he's a 1/3 pilot with the on-attack ability to discard a card from the defending player's deck. If that card costs 3 or less, draw a card. This is good for lots of reasons. First of all, 2 costs for 1/3 is not bad. Second of all, discarding a card from the defending player's deck every time this unit swings is going to be really strong. Put this guy in a ship. Every time the ship swings, you're discarding a card from your opponent. In sealed, that matters quite a bit. It could be a card they needed. It could be a card they only have 1 of. They could have 15 cards left and you keep discarding cards. So being able to discard from their deck is very strong. And then on top of that, if it happens to be a card that costs 3 or less, you get to draw a card. So this is just a really strong rare in sealed. This is definitely a pilot you want to have in your sealed deck list. Next up, we got one of the best cards in the set, in my opinion. This is Academy Graduate. It's a 2-cost blue 1/2 Sentinel, or a pilot 2-cost 1/2 Sentinel pilot. The ability to give one of your ships Sentinel is just very, very strong. And so this card is always going to go in my decks that have blue. This is another one of my favorite cards in the set. This is the Cloaked Star Viper, a 4-cost blue 3/2. When played, you give 2 shield tokens to the unit. So it's only a 3/2 for 4, which sounds bad, but you put 2 shield tokens on this when it comes out, which is very, very strong. It's pretty cool to pilot a Sentinel or a Leader onto this and really get some mileage out of those shields. Next up, we got the CR90 Relief Runner. This is a 6-cost blue capital ship, 4/6, with Restore 2. When defeated, heal up to 3 damage from a unit or base. This is a very solid card, Restore 2, solid stats, and you could play it for 5 cost if you have Krennic. Next up, we got one of the best blue cards in the set. This is Covering the Wing, a 2-cost blue event card. Create an X-Wing token. You may give a shield token to another unit. It's just a very solid card. Have a couple of them in your sealed deck if you're lucky enough to pull multiple. Next up, we got Direct Hit. Direct Hit is a 4-cost blue event. Defeat a non-leader vehicle unit. This is just going to be really strong in this set. Almost all the units are vehicles, and being able to take down a non-leader vehicle unit is going to help you out a lot. Last but not least for blue, we got Out the Airlock. This is a 5-cost blue event card. Give a unit -5/-5 for this phase. That is going to be a big debuff to a nasty opponent unit, and it will also kill a lot of units. Any unit that has 5 or less HP, it's a takedown card, and you could also play it on the opponent's 9 attack leader unit, and it wouldn't kill it unless it's already damaged, but it'll take 5 damage off your base or Sentinel for that phase. This is just one of the best cards, one of the best event cards in the entire set. For green cards, first up, we've got the First Order TIE Fighter. This is a 1-cost green-black, 2/1, and while you control a token unit, this unit gains raid 1. This is just a really strong starter drop. Have a couple of these if you pull them, and it's very solid. Next up, we have the Pantoran Starship Thief. This is a 2-cost green-black 2/2. When played, you may pay 3 resources. If you do, attach this unit as an upgrade to a fighter or transport unit without a pilot on it. Take control of that unit. So essentially, you're going to steal a fighter or transport from your opponent, and if they are able to defeat this upgrade, it says when this upgrade detaches from a unit, that unit's owner takes control of it. But it's a really interesting card because it's a new way to kind of steal a unit. And it's very cool. It is a rare, so you might not pull a bunch of them, but it looks like a solid card to throw in there. Victor Leader. This is one of the best cards in sealed. We have a 3-cost green-black 2/4 TIE Fighter. Each other friendly space unit gets +1/+1. This is disgusting in Darth Vader sealed decks. It's so good because all those TIE Fighters are going to get +1/+1. All your friendly space units +1/+1. This is an incredibly good rare to pull. Next up, we have Wingman Victor 3. 3-cost 4/3 on the ground's alright, but it's a 1-cost pilot, and when played as an upgrade, you may give an experience token to another unit, and it's a 1/1 pilot. Pretty strong pilot. You could play him on the ground if you want to. Next up, we've got the TIE Ambush Squadron. This is a 4-cost green-black 2/3 with Ambush, and when played and when defeated, create a TIE Fighter token. So you can drop this thing out, ambush something, it'll die, and you get 2 TIE Fighter tokens. We've got a 1-cost green-black event, Apology Accepted. Defeat a friendly unit, you may give 2 experience tokens to a unit. So what would be really good to do with this is defeat a TIE Fighter or maybe even an X-Wing, but it'd be really good to just defeat a TIE Fighter token and then give 2 experience tokens to another unit. Then we got Luke Skywalker, 2-cost green-white, 3/2, or Pilot, 3-cost 3/2. If this upgrade would be defeated, you may instead move him to the ground arena as a unit and exhaust him. Very cool ability. Interesting. You kind of get like 2 lives with this unit. And 3/2 is a pretty good buff to throw onto one of your ships. Next up, we have Blue Leader. This is a 3-cost green-white unique unit. 3/3 with ambush, and when played, you may pay 2 resources. If you do, move this unit to the ground arena and give 2 experience tokens to it. It's a pretty insane ability, so you can pay a total of 5 for this card, and then you send it to the ground arena and give it 2 experience tokens, so it'll be a 5-cost 5/5 in the ground with ambush, or it's a 3/3 in space with ambush. Very cool, very interesting card. Next up, we have Leia. Leia is a 3-cost green-white ground unit, 3/4 with restore 1. When played, you may attack with a pilot unit or a unit with a pilot on it. It gets +1/0 and gains restore 1 for this attack. This is a very strong card, very good to play on turn 2 or 3. Next up, we've got Poe Dameron. He's a 4-cost green-white 3/3. When played as a unit, create an X-Wing token. You may attach this unit as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. To pilot him, he costs 2, and he's a 2/3. Overall, a very cool card. I think I'd probably play him as a 2-cost pilot, but his 4-cost ability is not bad either. Next up, we've got Red Leader. Red Leader is insane to pair with like the Luke Leader pilot, but he's a 4-cost green-white 3/4 vehicle fighter, and this unit costs 1 less to play for each friendly pilot unit and upgrade. So if you already have a couple pilots on the board, Red Leader is going to be even cheaper. When you put a pilot on Red Leader, create an X-Wing token. This is just a really busted card, and it's only an uncommon. Very good. Then we have Chewbacca, 5-cost green-white unique pilot unit. He's a 5/6 on the ground that can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities, and he's a 3-cost 3/3 pilot, and the vehicle he attaches to also can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. This is an incredibly strong card, and while he's not bad on the ground, he's definitely better as a pilot, and just incredibly strong overall. Next up, we got Yarrick Yeager. He's a 2-cost green 2/3 with piloting 2/2/3. While you control a ground unit and a space unit, the attached unit gains Sentinel. This is just a really solid card because you're pretty much always going to have space unit, and you'll likely always have 1 ground unit giving you Sentinel, and having Sentinel is always a good thing. Next up, we got the Eager Escort Fighter. This is a 3-cost green 4/1 with ambush. This is a really good trade card. It's not going to survive anything, but it is a very powerful trade card for a 3-cost 4 attack ambush. Next up, we got the Adept Arc 170. This is a 4-cost green space unit, 3/4 with restore 2. It's always good to have a restore 2 solid stats. Next up, we got the Clone Combat Squadron. This is a 4-cost green unit, 3/3 in space, and this unit gets +1/+1 for each other friendly space unit. This card is one of the best cards in the set. It's absolutely disgusting and sealed because you pair this with Darth Vader, or it'd even be good if you had a bunch of X-Wing tokens as well, but Darth Vader is really good because he just keeps pumping out TIE fighters, and this can get to just insane numbers. Then you put a pilot on this, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Next up, we got the Dornian Gunship. This is a 5-cost green 4/3 capital ship in space. When played, deal indirect damage to a player equal to the number of vehicle units you control. When played's pretty good. Indirect damage is always going to be strong, and if you have a bunch of vehicle units, that's going to be a lot of indirect damage. And on top of that, it's a 5-cost 4/6 capital ship. Pretty solid stats, but the ability definitely makes it a lot better. Without the ability, the stats wouldn't be that great. But the ability, you could end up doing, 4 to 6 indirect damage, depending on how many token units you have. That could be a lot of indirect damage. Next up, we got the MC-30 Assault Frigate. This is a 5-cost green 5/5 capital ship in space with Overwhelm and Raid 1, giving it a whopping 6 damage on attack. This is just a really strong card. Putting a pilot on this can be pretty good. And of course, we gotta have Dorsal Turret. This is a 1-cost green upgrade. Attach it to a vehicle unit, and the unit gains when this unit deals combat damage to a unit while attacking, defeat that unit. So it's only going to trigger on attack, but when this unit attacks and hits a unit, if it deals any combat damage, that unit dies. This is incredibly strong. Great way to deal with leaders and other crazy ships. You just tag them and they'll blow up. Next up, we got Salvage. This is a zero cost green event card. Play a vehicle unit from your discard pile, paying its cost, then deal 1 damage to it. This is a really great way to get a really good ship back. Next up, we got All Wings Report In. This is a 1 cost green event card. Exhaust up to 2 friendly space units. For each unit exhausted this way, create an X-Wing token. So you could exhaust 2 TIE Fighters and get an X-Wing. Pretty good deal. Then we got Dogfight. It's a 1 cost green event card. Attack with a unit, even if it's exhausted. That unit can't attack bases for this attack. That means you could swing at a base with the unit, then it's tapped, then you could swing at a unit with the unit again. So you can attack with a unit twice, but the second attack can't attack bases. This is still a really strong card. This means your big chunky space unit could attack a second time. Last but not least, we got Focus Fire. This is a 4 cost green event card. Choose a unit. Each friendly vehicle unit in the same arena deals damage equal to its power to the unit. So basically, you're going to take the sum of all attack damage that you have of all of your friendly units in one arena and deal that to the opposing unit that you selected, which if you have a bunch of power, attack power in that arena, you're just going to absolutely nuke that card for 4 cost. This is very, very strong. For our first red card, we've got the red-black 1 cost First Order Stormtrooper. It's a 2/1 with on attack and when defeated, deal 1 indirect damage to a player. This is just going to be a really strong starting play. If you had a couple of these, that's even better. Next up, we have Allegiant General Pride. He's a 2 cost red-black ground unit with a 2/3 stat line and a couple of abilities. When indirect damage is dealt to a unit, you may defeat a non-unique upgrade on it. That'll let you remove some pilot cards and other upgrades, as well as an on-attack ability. On attack, if you have the initiative, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. This is going to be a pretty strong card with a Boba Fett deck. Next up, we got Von Reg's TIE Interceptor. This is a 3 cost red-black in space with a 3/4 stat line, and while this unit has 4 or more power, it gains Overwhelm. While this unit has 6 or more power, it gains Raid 1. This is a really disgusting card to put a pilot on. As soon as you get that power to 4 or higher, he gets Overwhelm, and once you get him to 6 or higher, he's going to have Overwhelm and Raid 1. This is a really incredible card to have a good pilot on and really make a nasty space unit. The one thing you do have to watch out for is it's a 3 cost card, so it can be waylaid. There's a couple of defeat and waylay type abilities for 3 cost cards, so you do have to watch out for that. But other than that, this is a really strong card to put a pilot on. Next up, we got Dengar. He's a 4 cost red-black ground unit. He's a 5/4 or a 2 cost pilot 1/2. On attack, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. If this unit is an underworld unit, deal 3 indirect damage instead. This is going to be a really strong pilot. His stats aren't bad for the ground, but he's going to be a really strong pilot, especially in a Boba Fett deck. Next up, we got IG-88, one of my favorite red-black cards from the set. He's a 5 cost ground unit, 4/5 on the ground. While an enemy unit is damaged, this unit gets +3/0, which is pretty insane. And then he's a 2 cost pilot 0/3, and while an enemy unit is damaged, the attached unit gets +3/0. He's a really incredible card. Whether you pilot him or throw him on the ground, he can pretty regularly get that +3/0 bonus, and that's really, really strong. Next up, we got the Darth Vader Legendary Unit. He's a 6 cost 7/7 red-black ground unit or a 3 cost 3/3 pilot with the on-attack ability of you may deal 1 damage to a unit. If a unit is defeated this way, you may deal 1 damage to a unit or base. He's going to be a very strong card. However, it's a legendary, so good luck pulling this guy on a regular basis. Here we have No Disintegrations. This is a 3 cost red-black event card. Deal damage to a non-leader unit equal to 1 less than its remaining HP. This is a really insane card because its ability to effectively do limitless damage. It's just however much the unit is -1, the HP of the unit -1 is just insane. You can use it to really, really weaken units or even take them out, and it's a very cool card. And then we've got the black one. This is a 2-cost red-white space unit, unique unit as well on this card, and it's a 2/3. But while this unit is upgraded, it gets +1/0. So throw a pilot or an upgrade on here, and it's a 3/3. And on attack, if you control Poe Dameron as a unit upgrade or leader, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. This is going to be a really strong card, especially if you are playing Poe. But even if you're not, it's still going to be a solid card to have in your deck. Next up, we got Biggs Darklighter. This is one of my favorite red-white cards in this set. He's a 3-cost ground and pilot unit, 3/4 on the ground, but you should definitely be playing him as a pilot. He's a 1-cost 2/1 pilot, and he has a couple of abilities. So if he attaches to a fighter, it gains Overwhelm. If he attaches to a transport, it gains +0/+1, so 1 health. And if he attaches to a speeder, it gains grit. All of those are cool, but my favorite is fighter because you can throw some extra damage and 1 extra health for 1 cost. That's really insane value onto a fighter unit. And if it's a big fighter unit, that's going to have overwhelm, and that's really, really powerful. So I really like this guy. He's going to be very strong in a red-white deck, especially a Luke deck. Then we've got Red 5's a unique 3-cost red-white space unit. 3/4 vehicle fighter. On attack, you may deal 2 damage to a damaged unit. This is an insane card, and it's really nice to put Leader Luke as a pilot onto this card, or just another good pilot. It's a very, very cool card. Here we have the Tactical Heavy Bomber. This is a 5-cost red-white in space. It's a resistance vehicle transport with 3 attack and 5 health. On attack, deal indirect damage equal to this unit's power to the defending player. Now, the reason this is so strong is because not only are you doing 3 attack and 3 indirect every swing, that's already a total of 6 damage, 3 indirect. But if you put a pilot on this card, that on attack ability is going to use the pilot's attack power as well. So any upgrades you put on this card, it's going to deal indirect damage equal to the total power on this unit, meaning you could be doing a lot of damage per swing. Next up, we have the Rebellious Hammerhead. This is a 6-cost red-white space capital ship, a 5/7 stat line, and when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards in your hand. This is a pretty solid card. The stats aren't insane for the cost, but they're good. And then you have the when played ability, so if you have a few cards in your hand, that's also a few damage onto a unit when you drop this down. This is a very nice 6-cost card. Next up, we got They Hate That Ship. It's a 1-cost red-white event card. An opponent creates 2 TIE Fighter tokens and ready them. Then play a vehicle unit from your hand. It costs 3 less. So you are going to, for 1 cost, you are going to give your opponent 2 TIE Fighters, but those are 1/1s. You're going to get 2 ready to 1/1 token units, and you're going to get a ship that costs 3 less from your hand. So it's going to make it a total of 4 costs, depending on what you're going to be playing. You could play a 3-cost unit for free. You play a less than 3-cost unit for free. Well, technically for the cost of 1 for the card. Or you could play a bigger card and it's going to have a discount of 3 on it. This is a really good value card. It is going to be a rare. You're not going to see a ton of it. But this is a very good value card. It's a great trade to give your opponent 2 TIE Fighters. And you're going to get some cool unit for very cheap. Next up, we have Trench Run. This is a 1-cost red-white event card. Attack with a fighter unit. For this attack, it gets +4/0 and gains on attack, discard 2 cards from the defending player's deck, deal unpreventable damage equal to the difference in the discarded cards costs to this unit. So your unit is going to take some damage, but the attack ability here is just insane. Attacking with a fighter and giving it +4/0, all for a cost of 1, is truly incredible. You're also going to be discarding 2 cards from your opponent's deck. Discarding 2 cards from their deck is always going to be good. You're going to banish 2 cards that they might want into their discard pile. Also going to whittle down their deck size. You are going to take some damage to the unit, but it's a very good trade. It's just a very, very good trade. Next up, we have Captain Tarkin. He's a 3-cost red ground unit. 2/5, each friendly vehicle unit gets +1/0 and gains overwhelm. So this guy is going to buff all of your vehicle units, and that is a really strong thing to have in this set. Next up, we have the Droid Missile Platform. This card can be really annoying to go against. It's a 3-cost red space unit. It's going to be a 4/2 in space, and when defeated, deal 3 indirect damage to a player. This card's really frustrating to go against because it's going to be 4 damage every swing, or you can take it out, but then you're still going to take 3 indirect, and it's going to be 4 indirect if your opponent is using the new Boba Fett leader. It's just a very annoying card, but it could be a very strong card for you, especially if you're playing Boba. Here we have the Hunting Aggressor. This is a 4-cost red unit in space with a 3/6 stat line, and indirect damage you deal to opponents is increased by 1. This is going to be a really strong card for Boba Fett. Boba Fett leader, every time you're dealing indirect damage, you're going to do an extra damage, and in a good Boba Fett deck, even in sealed, you're going to be doing a ton of indirect damage. This card is going to synergize really well with so many of those indirect damage cards and abilities in this set. So this is going to be a very strong card if you're playing indirect damage. If you're playing new Boba, it's going to be very good. Next up, we have Insurgent Saboteurs. This is a 6-cost red ground unit with a 6/5 stat line and Saboteur, as well as on attack ability, you may defeat and upgrade. This is a really disgusting card for a few reasons. First of all, most people playing this set are going to have a bunch of space units and leave their ground relatively wide open, and this is going to be a 6 damage, 5 health on the ground. That's a pretty big threat. They're going to have to scramble to do something about that. It also has Saboteur, so they can't just drop a Sentinel. And then on top of that, the on-attack ability to defeat and upgrade, and it doesn't say non-leader. It says on attack you may defeat and upgrade. What that means is you can use this card to nuke most of the pilot units in this set. Not all of them, but most of the pilot upgrades, dorsal turret, twin laser cannon, all of these really good upgrades, and even certain leader pilot upgrade units can be defeated every time this guy swings, and that is just incredibly powerful. And then we've got Twin Laser Turret. This is a 2-cost red upgrade. Throw it on a vehicle unit, and the vehicle unit is going to get +2/+2, and on attack, deal 1 damage to each of up to 2 units in this arena. This is just incredibly strong. For what you pay for it, it's very good value. You get an extra 2/2, and the on attack ability is going to let you hit multiple units in the arena, and that's going to be especially good for clearing out token units like TIE Fighters and X-Wings. But overall, this is just an incredible upgrade to throw down. Then we've got System Shock. This is a 1-cost red event card. Defeat a non-leader upgrade attached to a unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to that unit. This is really strong. No, you can't use it to take out leader pilots, but you can use this to take out any other pilots and upgrades and deal a damage to that unit. This is going to be a very strong card in this set. Then we've got Shoot Down. This is a 2-cost red event card. Deal 3 damage to a space unit. If that unit is defeated this way, you may deal 2 damage to a base. This is a really insane card. For 2 costs, you can take out a weak space unit and deal 2 to base at the same time. Very, very strong event card. Then we have Stay on Target. This is a 2-cost red event card. Attack with vehicle unit. For this attack, it gets +2/0 and gains. When this unit deals damage to a base, draw a card. This is just really good value for what you pay. You're going to pay 2 to get an extra 2 damage and a card draw if you swing at the base. That's very, very strong. Then we've got Piercing Shot. This is a 3-cost red event card. Defeat all shield tokens on a unit and deal 3 damage to that unit. This is again going to be a really strong card. You can even play it if your opponent has no shield tokens. You can just play it to do 3 damage. It's sort of like open fire in that way, except you can also use it to take out shields. This is really good for countering the Cloaked Star Viper card that comes out with 2 shields. This is a great card to deal with things like that. Then we've got Planetary Bombardment. This is one of the coolest legendaries in the set. It's going to be a 6-cost red event card. It is a legendary. You're not going to see this much. But deal 8 indirect damage to a player. That's 8 indirect damage. If you control a capital ship, you're going to deal 12 instead. So playing this after having a capital ship out, 12 indirect damage is insane. This is a game-winning card in the right situation. 8 indirect damage is very strong. 12 is absolutely unstoppable. You're going to plow through their units. You're going to definitely tag their base. And depending on the situation, this card could win you the whole game. Starting it off for yellow, we have the 4-cost yellow-black Bosk. Bosk is a 4/4 ground unit with the on-attack ability to exhaust the defender and deal 1 damage to it if it's a unit. He's a pilot of 2-cost 2/2 and on-attack exhaust the defender and deal 1 damage to it if it's a unit. This is going to be a pretty strong card. I think he's better as a pilot, but it's just going to be a very strong card overall. Here we have Moff Gideon. He's a 4-cost yellow-black 5/4 ground unit. When this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, each unit that opponent plays this phase costs 1 more. This is going to be solid stats as well as a pretty annoying disruption ability to your opponent. It's going to mess up their plays and their resource economy, and they also can't ignore 5 damage on the ground, but they may not have a great way to deal with it quickly. So this is going to be a very strong card in JTL Sealed. Here we have Boba Fett. He's a 5-cost yellow-black ground unit, 5/4 shielded, or a 2-cost 2/3 pilot. When you play him as an upgrade, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. If attached unit is a transport, you may deal 2 damage instead. Boba Fett's going to be a pretty cool card. He's a rare, so you might not see him as much, but definitely worth throwing in your deck if you do pull him. Here we have the Techno Union Transport. This is a 5-cost yellow-black space unit, 4/6 and shielded. Not much to talk about here. It's just really good stats plus shield for the price. A 5-cost 4/6 with a shield is very strong, and it's very nice to put a pilot on this or even a leader pilot on this. This card is pretty disgusting in a Boba Fett deck. Next up, we have In Debt to Crimson Dawn. This is a 2-cost yellow-black upgrade that you play onto an opponent's card. The ability is, when attached unit readies, exhaust it unless its controller pays 2. And that's every time it readies for any reason. So even if they played a card or something to ready it, they'd have to pay 2. This is just a really, really frustrating upgrade to play on your opponent. Frustrating for them because that's so insane. It's similar to the Frozen in Carbonite or No Good to Be Dead cards. But the fact that you have to pay 2 every time it readies or exhaust it is just truly nuts. And it's only a 2-cost card. So this is a pretty strong card. Here we have I Have You Now. This is a 1-cost yellow-black event card. Attack with a vehicle unit. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to it during this attack. This is a really cool card. Use it to swing at a really beefy opponent ship. Like let's say their leader pilot ship, and your unit's not going to take any damage. Here we have Cat and Mouse. This is a 3-cost yellow-black. Exhaust an enemy unit. If you do, ready a friendly unit in the same arena with power equal to or less than that enemy unit. This is a pretty good card because you're going to be able to exhaust an enemy unit. That's going to be really valuable later in the game when they have really, really big ships that just do tons and tons of damage. You'll be able to exhaust them on a turn, as well as you can potentially ready a friendly unit in the same arena. Very good card for its situation. Then we've got Fireball. This is a 2-cost yellow-white, 3/3 with ambush. When the regroup phase starts, deal 1 damage to this unit. So this isn't going to stay on the board for very long, but it really shouldn't stay on the board regardless. You're going to be using this as a takedown trade card because it's a 2-cost 3/3 ambush. It's just a solid trade takedown kind of card. Here we have the Black Squadron Scout Wing. This is a 5-cost yellow-white 4/6 in space. When you play an upgrade on this unit, you may attack with this unit. It gets +1/0 for this attack. This is really, really strong because first of all, it's a 4/6 in space, which isn't bad. But then with the initiative or when it's your turn, you can play an upgrade on this unit, like let's say a pilot or a twin laser turret. That's going to give it additional attack power for the attack, and then it's going to get 1 more additional attack for the attack from the card ability, making it a really, really big attack. Here we have Han Solo, the unit. He's a 5-cost yellow-white 4/5 with ambush, or a 2-cost 2/3 pilot with the ability, when played as an upgrade, you may attack with attached unit. If it's the Millennium Falcon, it deals its combat damage before the defender. This is going to be really, really insane, especially if you can play this guy on the Millennium Falcon. It's going to be just an insane synergy there. However, he is a legendary. Here we have the Home 1. This is a 9-cost yellow-white in space, a 7/8 Rebel capital ship. If an opponent controls 3 or more space units, this costs 3 less to play, which would make it a 6, and it has ambush. Being able to 6 cost ambush a 7-8 ship is just insane. 7-8 with ambush for 6 is truly nuts. And even for 9, a 9 cost 7-8 ambush is pretty strong. So this is just going to be a really, really good card, a way to deal with some bigger space units. Here we have Jammed Communications. This is a 1 cost yellow-white event card. Look at an opponent's hand and discard an event from it. This will be pretty strong because you can look and see that they've got, let's say, a planetary bombardment or a super laser salvo or something more simple like a barrel roll or a trench run. Any of those nasty event cards, and you'll be able to discard it from their hand. Here we have the Mandalorian. Mandalorian is a 5 cost double yellow 5/6 ground unit. When played as a ground unit, exhausts up to 2 ground units. However, I think he's going to be a lot stronger in sealed as a pilot. He is a 2 cost mono yellow, single yellow in space with a 3/1 stat line, and when you play him as an upgrade, you can exhaust an enemy unit in this arena. That's a very, very strong pilot. 3/1 for 2 cost, as well as exhausting another vehicle unit, is just going to be really, really strong. He's going to be better as a pilot, being able to pay 2 for a 3/1 pilot upgrade, as well as exhaust an enemy unit in the arena. That's going to be very, very strong. And here we have the Guerrilla Soldier. 3 cost, single yellow, 2/3. When played, deal 3 indirect damage to a player. If a base is damaged this way, ready this unit. This is going to be really strong because it pretty much forces your opponent to do a lot of damage to their early turn drop or take it to their base. And if they do, then they're going to take an additional 2 because this guy's going to ready and be able to swing at their base. Very strong card, especially with a indirect damage deck. Here we have the Kimogilla Heavy Fighter. This is a 4 cost yellow 3/4 space unit, and when played it deals 3 indirect damage to a player. Exhaust each unit damage this way. This is pretty strong because they're either going to have to take 3 indirect damage to their base, or they're going to have to exhaust 1 or 2 units, which is pretty cool. Here we have the Razor Crest. The JTL Razor Crest is a 4 cost yellow space unit with a 3/5 stat line. When a pilot attaches to this unit, you may return a non-leader unit that costs 2 or less, or an exhausted non-leader unit that costs 4 or less to its owner's hand. So basically, when you put a pilot on this unit, you're going to be able to waylay a weak unit or an exhausted, slightly stronger unit. And that's a pretty cool ability, and it's got solid stats. So once you put a pilot on that, that's going to be a good ship. Then we've got the Corporate Light Cruiser. This is a 6 cost yellow 4/6 space unit, but it has ambush and raid 1, making it a 5 attack ambush. Very solid ambush trade takedown type card. Very, very strong. Here we have Electromagnetic Pulse. This is a 1 cost yellow event card. Deal 2 damage to a droid or vehicle unit and exhaust it. This is really, really strong in this set because everyone is going to have a vehicle unit, and for 1 cost you can do 2 damage to it as well as exhaust it. That's going to be very, very strong. And we have Punch It. This is a 1 cost yellow event card. Attack with a vehicle unit, it gets +2/0 for this attack. This is just going to be a really solid surprise strike kind of event card for vehicle unit attacks. And last but not least, for yellow, we have Torpedo Barrage. This is a 3 cost yellow event card, and it says deal 5 indirect damage to a player. This is just really, really strong. For 3 cost, you're going to deal 5 to them, and 5 indirect damage, plus it would be 6 if you're running the new Boba Fett leader. It's just very, very strong for the cost. Here we have TIE Bomber. This is a 2 cost black space unit. 0/4 stat line, but on attack it deals 3 indirect damage to the defending player. This is really, really strong as a turn 1 drop, being able to deal 3 indirect damage each turn, plus the ability to put a pilot on this. It synergizes with the new Boba Fett leader, which would make it 4 damage a turn. Very, very strong early game card. Here we have Shuttle ST-149. This is Krennic's shuttle. It's a 4 cost black space unit with a 3/4 and shielded. When played and when defeated, you may take control of a token upgrade on a unit and attach it to a different eligible unit. At pre-release, I had this used against me a couple of times to steal my shield tokens. This is a pretty solid 4-cost play. Here we have Quasar TIE Carrier. This is a 6-cost black 5/7 capital ship in space, and on attack it creates a TIE fighter token. This is just a match made in heaven for the new Vader leader. Great card to have, and it's a common, so you might end up with a couple of them in your Vader sealed deck. Here we have R2-D2. This is the JTL R2-D2 unit. He's a 1-cost white 1/4 or a 0-cost pilot. That's right. He is a free pilot, and for free, you get 1/1 and attached unit gains. You may play or deploy one additional pilot on this unit. So for free, just for the cost of an action, you're going to give a unit +1/+1 and the ability to then still put another pilot on that unit. This is a very, very cool pilot, very good early game play. We have the Millennium Falcon. This is a 3-cost white 3/4 space unit. You may deploy one additional pilot on this unit. So this unit can have up to 2 units, and it gets +1/0 for each pilot on it. So that would make it a 5/4 if you put 2 pilots on it, plus whatever the pilots give it. This is a really incredible, unique space unit. Here we have Sabine's Masterpiece. This is a 3-cost white space unit. It's a 3/3 fighter with the Spectre tag, and it has a very interesting on-attack ability. It says, on attack, if you control a, and then followed up with blue, green, and red, yellow units. So if you control a blue unit, you're going to heal 2 damage from a base. If you control a green unit, you're going to give an experience token to a unit. Control a red, deal 1 damage to a unit or base. Control a yellow, exhaust or ready a resource. And I believe you're going to be able to do all of these if you somehow controlled everything. So let's say you have a blue unit and a green unit, you'd be able to do both of those. This is just a really, really strong card. And last but not least, I just chose one gray card to talk about. None of the gray cards are insane, but this is a 2-cost exhauster unit card, and that's always going to be good. Use this to exhaust your opponent's like crazy leader piloted ship that does 9+ damage. Exhaust it. Save yourself the damage one turn. It's a great play. That is it, guys. That is a list of some of the JTL cards that I think are very strong in sealed. Use them against your friends. Use them against your enemies. These are going to be very good cards to play in sealed in Jump to Lightspeed. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time.